good afternoon. Thank you for attending today's OhioX Tech Tour. We are happy to be talking with folks in Youngstown today. We're really excited for our continuation of this Tech Tour series, which is happening across the state. We are doing this in 10 cities with 10 events across 10 weeks. Last week was the kickoff, and we're happy to be in Youngstown, virtually, of course, today, with so many great leaders, entrepreneurs, and technologists. So I am Chris Berry. I'm the president of OhioX. We're a statewide technology and innovation partnership. Our goal is to help unite and promote what's happening in technology and innovation across the state. And we hope by telling stories with series like today that we can help share the message of what's going on throughout Ohio. We have a ton of incredible companies, organizations that are doing amazing work, and we want to help spread that message. And hopefully there are folks today that are on from places all across Ohio that can learn and listen and meet, and some of our guests today as well. Before we start, I want to thank HMB, who is the Tech Tour sponsor. HMB helps mid-market companies and governments innovate and grow using cloud platforms and automation. HMB believes that you don't have to have a bottomless IT budget to reach your full potential. If you're interested in learning more about HMB, please visit their website at www.hmbnet.com. To kickstart, we'll do a quick round robin introducing our panelists, who hopefully will share a little bit about who they are, what they're working on. We'll start with Barb Ewing. Barb is the Chief Executive Officer of the Youngstown Business Incubator. YBI is a catalyst organization in Northeast Ohio that works across both entrepreneurship and technology transition to support the resurgence of Youngstown and the surrounding community. Barb, welcome to our webinar series today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for hosting it and for including Youngstown as one of your kickoff sites, and for my seat on the board. I'm very appreciative of that. So for people who don't know YBI, we're a pretty diverse organization, both culturally and in terms of the work that we do. We were established as part of the state's entrepreneurial signature program in Northeast Ohio. That's Jumpstart, but it looks different in different parts of the state. Going back to about 2001 when the program was initiated, we were one of the Edison incubators before that. For a solid decade, we stuck to our knitting, and the only thing that we did was support technology startups, software startups in particular. And then in 2012, the Obama administration announced that they were going to create a national network for manufacturing innovation, very similar to the Fraunhofer Institutes, if people are familiar with that, out of Germany. And YBI became the home for the flagship program. The America Makes is the National Additive Manufacturing Innovation Institute. With that, we started to diversify our portfolio to include supporting startups in additive manufacturing, but also to promote programs to help companies adopt additive manufacturing. And we've been working with companies like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, large and small, and have a pretty big portfolio of technical support that we can offer to companies to help them understand how to do that. And what I'm working on right now, twofold. One is to expand our manufacturing facility. We've got an additive manufacturing facility at 65,000 square feet. Not all of it is renovated. In just over 2.5 years, we've fully filled that building and need additional space for our startups to move into. And we are also working to become part of the America Makes project to work with the U.S. Army to help them build a supply chain for additive manufacturing. And finally, in a few minutes, everybody will meet Vern Richberg, who is our director for the Minority Business Assistance Center. We are the MBAC for the Eastern Corridor of Ohio, so running from Ashtabula down to Monroe County. We partner with BRITE on that, and are doing some really good things in that as well.
Thank you, Barb. That's a tremendous introduction. Thank you so much. Our next speaker that we'll introduce is Jeff Leo Herrmann. Jeff is the CEO of the Youngstown Publishing Group and also the president of Madison, Michigan and Market. Jeff has an interesting story. He returned back home to Youngstown after spending a career traveling really the world, working in digital media and marketing technology. Jeff, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Chris. Really a pleasure to be here and pleasure to be here with everyone on the panel. I enjoy working with these folks every single day. And, I could provide the introduction, but it's interesting we say the word Youngstown because you have Rick there pointing at Warren, right? So we are a diverse community. And it's interesting, it's the Youngstown market, the DMA as defined, 4 counties per Nielsen parlance. But really, it's much broader. It's 10. We all collectively represent at least 10 counties, wouldn't you say, from lake to river? Is that fair to say, Barb?
I would say, yeah, it's if you include Portage, only Portage and a little bit of Summit, but we also spill over into Western PA. So when you start looking at that, it's a very different area. And I was going to point out that Rick is sitting in, and not in Youngstown, but I wasn't sure if Rick was sitting in Akron or Warren. So
I am sitting in Warren.
Okay.
That's
not just wearing the T-shirt.
Yeah, needless to say, we have a diverse set of perspectives, and what my focus is, and what we're all focused on, is the transformation of this community, and specifically here at the Youngstown Publishing Company, in which our flagship publication is the Business Journal. It's a 35-year-old publication focused on promoting the growth of business, industry, and quality of life in the 5-county region. We've used the journalistic roots and integrity to then launch an advocacy platform called the Brain Gain, G-A-I-N, it's over here. And the goal there is to promote workforce development and to build a culture of entrepreneurship. And obviously, everyone here on the panel is focused on those 2 things. And so we thought in a time when media companies were going left and right, and we're not going to get into the current state of media in this conversation, but we're blazing a trail right down the middle because everyone in this market won't argue against the fact that we always need to invest in our workforce and promoting workforce development. And we need more entrepreneurs, and be they, startups, be they single, sole proprietorships across retail, products, technology, you name it. We're really providing that platform, and we're a very open and welcome community to the entire state of Ohio. And as we transform, the role that we play as a publication is to be the definitive record of market transformation. So I'll close with the fact that we still publish a print, sorry, it's not, I have to hold it a certain way because of my virtual background, a print publication twice a month. And it's literally a tangible experience, right? 68 pages that you flip through twice a month. And what's important about print is that it's meaningful. If you made print, it's lasting, right? It's enduring. And that's really the role of curator of all the great things happening in the market. The curation role of this happened and this is important and this is archived for the future generations is a role that we really take seriously and enjoy doing.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. We'll go next to Vern. Vern Richburg is the regional director for the Youngstown Minority Business Assistance Center. Vern supports the growth and sustainability of small minority and disadvantaged businesses in Northeast Ohio and works to provide entrepreneurs with technical and professional assistance, access to capital and bonding, and connection to business opportunities. Vern, thanks for being here with us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Chris. Good to be here with you this morning. Just want to touch on a few things that we're looking at doing. Barb had an excellent overview of what the Youngstown Minority Business Assistance Center does here in the Mahoning Valley. As she mentioned, we operate in a 7-county footprint. So we go as far north as Ashtabula. So we've got a great wealth of real estate that we cover. Primarily what we do is we help lift businesses out of lifestyle businesses. We help lift them out of self-employment where they can meaningfully, create jobs, pursue the business pursuits that make sense for them in the Valley. We focus on tech enabling because we believe that it's an increaser of productivity. On top of that, my primary focuses are access to capital, funding for businesses, and bid and contract and procurement opportunities.
Thank you, Vern. Appreciate that. And then our final panelist is Rick Stockburger, who is the CEO at BRITE Energy Innovators. BRITE is Ohio's energy tech incubator, and they're dedicated to ensuring the success of startups driving innovation in energy tech. They accomplish this by offering consultation services to startups and small and medium-sized enterprises, lab space, and equipment for device testing and R&D, and affordable office space and co-working memberships. In addition, he's joined us in Warren, as his shirt says today. But Rick, thanks for being here. And what doesn't BRITE do?
What don't we don't work with lifestyle businesses for the most part. But no, Chris, thanks so much for having this, man. It's really awesome, the work that you guys are doing at OhioX. So first of all, first and foremost, thank you so much. Elevating the entrepreneur and technology in the state of Ohio is something that, isn't only important to us but I'm sure there's a bunch of folks out there listening. And, it's really about the future of our state, very much so. So I want to make sure that my 4 and my 6-year-old have opportunities to stay here and to grow here, and that, my kids don't have to move to Silicon Valley or somewhere on the coast to have a great job. So the work that Jeff's doing with Brain Gain, the work YBI is doing, and the work MBAC's doing is so important to really move that forward, and selfishly make sure that my kids don't move away and we have those opportunities. So to explain BRITE real quick, we actually work statewide. So if you're an energy company, early stage, got a great idea, or maybe you need some testing and validation of your product, we will help you anywhere in the state of Ohio. And it's actually, with coronavirus, become a little bit easier for us to do that, as we can jump on Zoom, have a good conversation, and kind of talk through what your pitch and your business value proposition and all that is. So, that's something that we do that's really, really, really awesome. I'm very grateful for that. Tech scouting is something that we do for mid-market companies as well. As you know, energy touches just about everything. And so whether it's, building efficiency because you have a lot of real estate, or you're trying to figure out what battery to put in your product, that's something that we're able to do with mid-market companies and utility companies as well. And then beyond that, we have our testing and R&D lab here. So we test physical products, batteries, fuel cells, IoT devices, and then also we have a microgrid that we do testing on here as well. So anything from charging, or say you want to figure out what happened to your product if lightning struck it. We'll blow stuff up here too, which is kind of fun. Oh wait, people are listening. We don't blow stuff up, I promise. But
nobody can hear that.
we have a lot of fun here. We've got a great staff, and most importantly, we have a great community that we can build this future in together.
Thank you, Rick. That was a great overview. And I think to start, and something you mentioned, Rick, in your opening comments about COVID, and we're all experiencing it, and it's all shifted how we do business. And so many people within the matter of days went to remote work, which if you would have said that 6 months ago, to see our economy make some of these drastic shifts, you wouldn't think it was very likely. But maybe for this group to share a little bit, we can start with you, Barb, of what it's been like these past few months. What are some of those things that you're seeing in your space with your customers, your constituencies? Maybe there are some opportunities that have existed, and also some challenges that collectively companies and organizations in Youngstown, Mahoning Valley have had to overcome.
So truly, for probably all portfolio companies around the state, all technology companies around the state, you've got winners and losers. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. So there are some companies that, because of COVID, have been able to see growth that they would not have necessarily seen otherwise. We've got a really great story. Fitz Frames is an eyeglass company that uses additive manufacturing to make custom fit glasses for kids. And while they were doing well, the market grew exponentially because people didn't want to just not have to take their kids in to get glasses. They didn't want to take their grandparents or parents in to get glasses. They didn't want to go. So they really have been able to expand not only within their existing market, but to pivot to create it's a personal protective device, eyeglasses that are oversized, custom fit, can be prescription or not, for medical professionals. that's a great story, and we're really proud of companies that have been able to do that. But then you also have software companies whose principal market was as a nursing home industry, and could not imagine worse timing than trying to get into the nursing homes at this time. We've worked very hard to try to find ways to help our companies make their way through this, but it's a different story for everybody, and unfortunately, there will be winners and losers coming out of this. For long-term strategy, though, I think that especially when you look at the East and West Coast and communities that are really dependent upon mass transit and whose cost structures are now upside down because of the lease space, the lease rates that they've got, there are real opportunities in the Midwest for us to build programs to attract those companies here when they need to have physical space. And we're really looking at this as a long-term opportunity for YBI to shift and to grow into new areas that would not have presented themselves as strongly, at least 6 months ago.
That's great. Thank you, Barb. And before we go to Jeff, you had mentioned, and this is something that for maybe people that aren't from Northeast Ohio, Mahoning Valley, Youngstown, additive manufacturing is something that if you go to the Youngstown area, you're going to hear it over and over. And it's something that's incredible businesses and there's incredible work happening. Barb, could you maybe describe what it is somewhat briefly before we go to others about COVID still? But I think that's something that, and I think one of the parts of this tour that we're hoping is that those types of things, those sectors that some of our regions are exceptional at, we can help tell that story. So maybe businesses that are looking to do business, looking for solutions in different parts of Ohio, beyond Ohio, we'll look then to Youngstown to figure out your expertise in additive manufacturing.
So additive manufacturing or 3D printing becoming much more commonplace in the market today. Most people still tend to think about it as low-end desktop printer sitting on somebody's desk, some kids making bobbleheads using it. But really, there are very sophisticated machines, $500,000 and up, and you can do incredible things with them. Custom fit, very quick to market, unique geometries. Not typically for mass production, but you can make tooling very quickly using additive manufacturing. When COVID hit, America Makes, as a defense institute, was contacted by the administration and integrated into, I'll call it a project team with the Veterans Administration and the National Institute for Health and some other agencies to help figure out how additive could build up the supply chain for PPE more quickly. And America Makes immediately jumped in and started orchestrating programs to identify both needs and capacities. Last week, the Secretary of Commerce was in town, and part of the reason why he came to Youngstown and to America Makes in particular was because they are sustaining that work, recognizing the need for that to continue. Obviously, our PPE needs have not gone away. And while it is not mass production by any stretch of the imagination, there is a very valid role for additive manufacturing to play in this fight. And kudos to America Makes for really helping to get products out into the market as quickly as they did.
Great.
And as important, getting unsafe products, we won't call them bad, but products that did not necessarily offer any real level of protection out of the market. So there were all kinds of stories about 3D printed N95 masks, and many, many of the early ones offered really nothing other than, it was a piece of plastic that offered no real protection. And so through that process, they were able to get products vetted by experts and keep people safe.
Great, thank you. Jeff?
Sure. So continuing on Barb's theme for winners and losers, during the coronavirus crisis, the pandemic, we actually saw our audience traffic, our visitors, page views and visitors quadruple. So because of the role that we play, we're a business publication and we're focused primarily on economic development and workforce development, and we do have a lifestyle and entertainment channel. We really embrace the mantle because we don't have a local daily here the Youngstown Vindicator story. It's a long, old story, but we embraced the mantle of really intense reporting on the coronavirus. And the role of media is to serve, especially from our standpoint, as an unbiased arbiter of information to connect people that need information and need services and things, and just the role of public health in our community. And what's interesting is that as the crisis evolved, we really saw our page views go up dramatically, but then obviously as an advertising supported platform, that was challenging, right? And it's still challenging to this day. If media, if it's advertising supported, it's challenging. So it's really forced us to more seriously pursue diversifying our business models. We have 1.5 revenue streams today, upwards towards 6 revenue streams, which things we're working on into the future, which we talked about on our podcast recently that we had. So it's a quick plug to go check out the Futurecast for Chris. But through the crisis, we found this as an opportunity to, as Barb mentioned, companies that were producing PPE. What can we do as an essential business and media platform? Social media is so noisy and so toxic. We as a independent media company that does not have a bias really felt our role emerge and trying to demystify a lot of misinformation or just publish straight information, straight facts, and not get involved in all the politics that it's entangled, right, with this crisis and how the political agendas. And so that's been an interesting role. We've seen a resurgence of local media because of the nature of social media. And look, I'm a big user of social media every single day. I have strong opinions about certain platforms like Facebook and their role in this community versus one like a LinkedIn. But we found that because of that lack of trust that's out there with social media and the way it's been gamified by external parties, that we have a new place and local media has a new important place, and anyone that claims that media is the enemy of the people is insane. It's not, it's really not. Is once again, as far as if the media company has an unbiased mission and an editorial statement. So that's kind of our take on it. But once again, all these transformative opportunities we're documenting, we're writing narratives about, we're telling the story, and we're hoping that we expose the great things that have emerged out of this very difficult time.
Thank you, Jeff. Vern?
Yeah, absolutely. So, regarding COVID-19 and the crisis, certainly we think that the uncertainty of COVID-19 and this current environment that we're in is leading us to look at how businesses can more effectively find themselves through the marketplace, find new customers, achieve new goals, and those sort of things. What I'm understanding and what I'm actually seeing amongst the businesses that I work with are those who don't understand technology, who don't understand the industrial chains, and don't understand e-commerce and how to get on board and how to stay in the flow of all these new technologies that are actually old technologies, but how to gain traction using digital tools are being left behind. We have a ton of cash businesses and businesses that pretty much working under the premise that if I build it, they'll come. We can see today that because of COVID, that the rise of e-commerce companies, delivery businesses, and companies that have long ago embraced the tools of the digital economy are faring better. Thereby, they are the winners amidst everything that's going on. So we spend, Chris, quite a bit of time helping our businesses ramp up the speed, gain new tools for productivity, achieve more online, sell more things online, find customers where they are. I always say I used to have an SMS marketing business. It's so important to find yourself on that 4x8 screen. That's where business occurs. And when we're finding the customer segments now are definitely interested in online, they're definitely interested in e-commerce. We need to really instill in businesses that we're working with to be effective coming out of COVID-19 and this crisis. We're just going to have to do a better job of finding new customer segments online. And that's what we spend a lot of time working with. But if I could just step back and just talk a little bit about how technology and how COVID affected smaller micro enterprises, women-owned, vet-owned, and minority businesses. What we're finding is that the lack of financial tools or tools that enable them to be more productive financially with bookkeeping and accounting and those kind of things really hampered businesses. Not having access to, gross income numbers, balance sheets, income statements and things like that more readily in a first come first basis like the emergency loan was really hampered access to capital for a lot of businesses. And so those are some of the lessons that we've learned. And our entire e-learning platform at the Youngstown Minority Business Assistance Center is actually a digital platform. So we have our from go-to-market tools to business model canvassing and business planning. Our entire population can do their basic e-learning online. And so we represent the model for businesses we hope. Our business model is tech-enabled. So we want to be we want to demonstrate those behaviors that we're hoping our businesses will use. All with up and down our footprint. They work for rural businesses, they work for inner city businesses, they work for businesses that have mixtures of different economies. We feel strongly that technology and tech enabling is critically going to be important for us to find our way out of where we are today. I don't believe that business will be as usual or as we knew it just a few short months ago.
Great. Thank you, Vern. Rick?
Cool. So I'm gonna try to make 3 points real quick that align with COVID and whatnot. So first off, when I saw the list of the really talented folks that were going to be on this, I was super excited about everybody, but I was very excited about Jeff. The fourth estate is something that is unbelievably important to the future of technology, to the future of democracy, and everything that we're doing. And the work that the Business Journal has done has been fantastic through this. And it's not just been a source of where we go to get our general news, but where we, learn about what's going on in the community and how people are pivoting and those stories that are really important to the resiliency of our region. So it's just really important that we continue telling the good stories that are out there while understanding that not everything's perfect and how we're going to move forward. So just wanted to get that off my chest real quick to add on to what Barb was saying. There's absolutely going to be winners and losers coming out of this. One of our companies, speaking of pivoting, I'm a big believer that the product that you enter our incubator in is 9 times out of 10 it probably won't be the product that you leave our incubator with. And so pivoting is unbelievably important. And the companies that show that kind of resiliency and understanding and listening to the market and where it's moving are the ones that are finding themselves successful. So we have a company, Entwine Connect, that came in here with a really fantastic energy management device that checks the energy management of the building and makes it more efficient. Very cool product. They realized very quickly that their box that does this and integrates with all of these IoT devices and sensors could actually integrate with food service prep. So checking temperature of food, checking temperature of humans, being able to win a partnership with Gojo to run all of the hand sanitizer stations to know that your employees are being safe. And I know when I go through a fast food restaurant, one of the things that I always think about is is that 16-year-old really washing their hands as often as I hope they are? So they're doing an excellent job of pivoting, and maybe it's a little bit out of the energy space. That's fine with me. They're currently creating jobs in the Mahoning Valley and needing more space and ramping up. So it's really, really cool to see companies that are pivoting. The third point that I think is really, really important is that we learn from history. And I am a big believer that the 2007 recession did not get our world better for entrepreneurs and people starting businesses. We did not pivot out of that in a meaningful way to really support entrepreneurship. And we have an opportunity right now as we look at what the new markets are going to be and how they're going to do that to really support and come around entrepreneurs. I'm a big believer a huge believer in there's only two reasons that people create companies. It's opportunity and necessity. And necessity just happened for a ton of folks, a ton of really talented, hardworking folks that just lost their job and have a unique perspective on certain markets that are just very ripe for being disrupted. And so like organizationally for us, you know, right now we have a backlog of 40 companies that we're trying to get services to because they're folks that, you know, maybe were recently unemployed and, you know, they have time to work on a new product and a new idea. And so when that necessity happens, it can create a ton of opportunity. And that's really what you want out of your entrepreneurs, is realizing an opportunity and then having the necessity to go out and do that. So, you know, we're really excited about the opportunities in the future. And we are also hope that our government and everybody will come around those opportunities to really support entrepreneurship and from a policy perspective and whatnot as well. So.
Thank you, Rick. That was great. And which shifts then to something in news, but then also, you know, as I think, and I think Northeast Ohio, the Mahoning Valley, Youngstown has this tremendously rich and proud history in manufacturing. And a lot of these opening remarks were about that and creating things and building things. But something that's been in the news recently has been that Youngstown has this opportunity to become the Voltage Valley because of electric car manufacturing. Lordstown Motors, which is a newer company using an old facility that's been around for a while. I think, and Rick, you have a Tesla hat on, but there's some opportunities like that.
It's SpaceX.
Oh,
right?
SpaceX. Sorry. Yeah. But Jeff, as our resident media expert, maybe you want to share just a little bit about what's going on with Lordstown, what this Voltage Valley is, and what it can mean to the opportunity, not just for Youngstown, but it's these types of businesses that are really the future of anywhere. And as we talk about, whether it's Lordstown Motors or Tesla, those are businesses and products that the entire world wants. So Jeff, maybe you want to share a little bit about what's happening in the Youngstown area.
Sure, I can kick off and certainly defer to the rest of the panel, but one key word I would mention is momentum. So there seems to be tremendous momentum in our region, not only from economic development projects, things like transportation and logistics. We have a major hub in Lordstown. TJX has been under construction for the past couple of years. But with Lordstown Motors taking over the former GM plant, and then with the General Motors LG Chem joint venture for batteries, which I know Rick can speak to very succinctly. These are exciting economic development projects which are giving us a fair degree of momentum. But let me add a little historical context. So yes, this is the future, right? And there are very significant multi-billion-dollar investments being made in this region which serves as a magnet for other investments in capital investments. But the fact that going back to the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, speaking to our friends in Western Pennsylvania, Mercer County, Lawrence County, Westinghouse had a transformer plant that operated for decades prior to World War II, through World War II and into the 70s. And transformers, actually Voltage Valley is an old name that effectively has been resurfaced. And so we've spent a lot of time trying to this isn't something new on the scene that we hope sticks. It's real and it's here, right? We have a long history in energy, decades and decades of progress in energy. And that's something that I think is a cool element to share because it really ties our whole community together, Western Pennsylvania, Northeast Ohio, Lordstown, Sharon, Pennsylvania, to embrace this deep legacy of capability that, once again, from a momentum standpoint, we're ready to roll, we're ready to work. There are billions of dollars flowing into this market. We invite more money into this market. To Barb's point, I feel like the coronavirus crisis, we've retained a lot of people college grads that would have moved right after college. They're here. They really had no desire to move to a big city, wanted to stay closer to family. And that those that are tired, and I've lived in New York, Chicago, and San Francisco, and the cost per square foot and the amount of acreage you get here compared to the rest of the country is amazing. And so we feel like there's a big momentum play here, both on the economic development standpoint, but also on a lifestyle and family-oriented standpoint. But I'll turn it over to the other team members here to discuss the details.
I need to jump off, so I apologize again for not being able to stay, because it's a great discussion. But I think it is important to really talk about the fact that the Mahoning Valley just feels very different today than it did a decade ago. And it really is permeating across the valley, no longer just centered in downtown Youngstown, but Warren, of course, with BRITE and the Lordstown area. Jim Kostler are truly maybe not technically, but in spirit, our founding entrepreneur in residence, the heart of the organization, talks about how Youngstown had to dispel its disbelief in itself. And you just don't feel that sense of cynicism that used to exist here. There's really a powerful feeling that we have turned the corner. And while certainly there is much work to be done, at the community level, at the regional level, certainly at the neighborhood level, we need to strengthen our relationships in diversity and inclusion, and that is something that YBI is really committed to, and other partners as well. We acknowledge that there's work to be done, but it finally feels like we have a base to build off of, and our thanks to everybody who's a part of that. YSU is not part of this discussion, but we wouldn't be having this conversation without the leadership of President Dressel, and many, many other people. So with that, I am going to jump out of here so nobody can argue with me. And
Barb, I want to say one thing before you run. It's just something very cool. So actually, just yesterday, I got a call from a company in Silicon Valley that is an additive manufacturing focused producer of electric vehicle motors.
Very cool.
And so I got a call with them later this afternoon, and they're like, well, the only energy incubators in Ohio is in Warren, and the best place to do additive manufacturing in the world is in Youngstown. And so
great story.
How cool is that we're now getting phone calls
yes.
Because I totally agree with Jim that we got to believe in ourselves here, but the rest of the world's starting to believe in us, and that's what's cool.
So, all right, thank you all. Have a great afternoon. Good luck with that call, Rick. Let us know if you need anything.
Oh, I will. I'll be calling you.
Rick, that's cool about you're getting calls for our centers of excellence, because being an avid user of LinkedIn and actively sharing content, especially hitting the hashtag Voltage Valley really hard, of course I look at who looks at my posts, right? Those analytics are available. I get a ton of views out of California, and specifically from Tesla. People at Tesla are always reading our Lordstown Motors stories and anything related to Voltage Valley. So I track that. It's an indicator. It's certainly, I wouldn't bet a lot of money on it, but it's certainly an indicator of interest of companies far outside of this region into what's going on here.
Yeah, well, and to that point, when we had our conference here in Warren, Ohio, less than a year ago, we had Steve Burns and somebody that reports to Elon Musk at Tesla coming to Warren to talk about the future of electrification and electric vehicles, and I don't know, it's so cool that we get to be a part of something that's extremely future facing. And also that those companies a lot, and it's funny because I talk about electric vehicle companies a lot like breweries. Most microbreweries, they understand that they're not really competing against each other right now. They're kind of competing against Budweiser. And so a lot of them will work together and collaborate together. And we're starting to see that from, electric vehicle companies that are starting up and the ones that are being more successful. It's just we have to focus on people adopting electrification. Nobody at Tesla is mad at anybody from Lordstown Motors for producing a really cool electric truck. And it's an opportunity for competition and what America is about. to, bring up both industries and sell a ton of trucks. It's a cool opportunity, and so just that we have that right here is really rad. So I agree with you, and I'm excited that hopefully
it's
we'll be.
also good news for our supply chain as well. When we think about the resurrection of companies in this area who formerly supplied the GM, infrastructure and the plant and all those sort of things. I'm excited about the idea that it's not just going to create jobs. It's a meaningful opportunity for us to create leadership, not just in Northeast Ohio, but certainly in this Northeast part of the country. And that's why I think, Jeff, people are looking at us. They recognize that we've got the infrastructure, we've got the history here, we've got hardworking people, we've got all that it takes for us to turn this corner, as Barb said just before she left. And it just leaves me excited, Chris, for our future and what these next couple of years are going to bring, the hard work that Rick and the BRITE Center's doing. We have Jeff in the media who's really getting the word out about the great things that are happening in the Valley with America Makes, with the Youngstown Business Incubator. It's my hope that people will continue to look at us and accept our leadership in this area, and that we'll continue to attract other companies of like-minded technologies, both in energy and both in manufacturing and the industrial sectors, that will choose the Mahoning Valley, Youngstown, and Warren to make their new homes.
Yeah. Well, and Vern, I'm excited for an influx of less people that look like me and more people that look like you in leadership positions. So, that's a huge opportunity we have. And Jeff, to kind of talk about your historical context, the Voltage Valley perspective isn't even like in the 70s in the past. Additive has an R&D center in Warren, Ohio, where they're working on wireless charging of electric vehicles, and they've been doing that for 20 years here. Tata Steel, which is the old Thomas Steel strip, makes all the casings for lithium-ion batteries in the country, literally right down the road here. So it's not just that Lordstown Motors came and all of a sudden electrification. Like, to your point, we've been doing it and we never stopped doing it. And I'm also very sad that Barb got off, because one thing I think we learned with the steel industry is we can't just be electrification here. We have an opportunity to bleed in additive manufacturing and electrification, diversify our economy, diversify our leadership, and be something that's extremely meaningful and future facing and resilient and whatnot. So.
That's great. Thank you all. And I think that's a good shift to something else that, and Jeff, you hit on this, and it's also behind you, but the effort of brain gain, and whether it's this effort specifically or more broadly as we think about, attracting talent, developing talent, reskilling talent for some of these new opportunities like Lordstown Motors and others, and to Vern, your point about supply chain and making sure that workers are able to, how terrific would it be if not just the cars are built in the Mahoning Valley, but the batteries and all the supply chain necessities for that. And so, Jeff, maybe if you want to talk a little bit about that, but also, of more broadly for everyone else, of what does that look like to you, and what are you seeing, and what are some of the things being done, whether it's, recruiting the next Jeff to come back from Tokyo or New York or Chicago or wherever you were last, to retooling some of these worker, employees, or just, keeping Youngstown and Youngstown State. And, there's the University of, there's a ton of incredible, education happening at Ohio's universities and colleges, but keeping some of those students maybe back home instead of going to one of the coasts.
Right. In the broadest sense, this is about eliminating bias across many different facets of our society, and then, driving transformation. And really, how can we be a change agent and drive a new narrative? And that's something we've already discussed today, as far as changing the narrative and having this sense of confidence. And so the brain gain, what's been interesting is when I speak to eliminating bias, there are many biases we have, unfortunately, in our current society today. One of the biases we discovered and keyed on is the fact that, when we launched the Brain Gain Initiative, the focus was on, everyone told us, focus on the kids, focus on middle school, high school age kids, focus on when they're at the moment, they're still exploring and looking at their different career options, because the bias for years has been, graduate, go get a 4-year degree, follow the steps, don't go into manufacturing because look at what happened to the steel industry, go to college and get out of here. That's really what, for the past couple decades, the parents, the people in their, 40s and 50s at the time, programmed into their kids. And so what happened was a brain drain, where many talented people left the community. And so one of the biases we're trying to change and eliminate is this notion that there are many career opportunities. 4-year degrees are fantastic. Community colleges, 2-year degrees are amazing. A career in the military is great. A career in the trades is an amazing opportunity. Just getting certification. I mean, it'd be interesting. I know both Vernard and Rick can speak to the level of certifications that are available where you don't really necessarily have to follow the old recipe, and that there are many amazing things you can do simply by getting exposed at a younger age and help, connecting business and industry and all the future opportunities with the kids as they're emerging, and then helping them chart a course to a very successful career that might not look like something that ever even existed here 10 years ago.
A question we just got in, and I think kind of goes to this, is thank you for Rich for submitting this, but he mentions the logistics industry is a key driver of Ohio's economy. How do you see new technology, including electric and automated vehicles, impacting the logistics industry, and how is the Voltage Valley positioned to support this trend? Maybe Rick or Vern, if you want to take this one to start.
That's Rick's wheelhouse. Go
ahead. Rich, thanks for the question. So I like to start out with fun facts. During the Civil War, the state of Ohio had more railroad lines than the entire South. We were able to utilize and move more manufacturing power in 1864 and 1865 than the entire South. It's one of the many reasons that the North won that war. So traditionally speaking, we've been moving stuff for a very, very long time, and important products as well. We're also just, perfectly located between the East Coast and Chicago and other places. So when you look at a logistics hub, you're looking at kind of multiple opportunities. And one of the things that we see moving forward, especially in the electrification movement, is, at some point, these vehicles are going to have to stop and they're going to have to charge. And, that you can get into do you go down the batteries or do you go down the fuel cells for long range and all of that? But at the end of the day, reasons that TJ Maxx and TJX is building logistics hubs here, and all the logistics hubs we already currently have, is because even with gas trucks, this is a great place to do that. So when you talk about future-facing technologies and what that could actually mean for our economy and what's moving forward, is we have a very real opportunity here to lead in fleet logistics. How do you move products from that perspective? What does automation or moreover autonomy kind of mean for that place? And so we're actually very fortunate that the Western Reserve Port Authority submitted a build grant really focused on our opportunity for logistics and how we can utilize future-facing technologies to make a kind of hub for the future as far as moving products around. So we're really, really excited about that opportunity. And I know Drive Ohio was a big part of that application, and Eastgate Regional Council of Governments as well. So it's kind of that yard of the future. How are we going to move products around in a meaningful way? And we've been doing it since the 1860s. We've been leading the country in that, and we can continue doing it today.
Terrific. Thank you so much. We have another question from Vicky. Can you expand on the certification pathways and collaborative efforts between education and employers? Is there anyone on here, and maybe Barb may have been the perfect one in mentioning some of those collaborations between Youngstown State and others?
I know of one example. So you have Goodwill Industries, Eastern Gateway Community College, Youngstown State, I believe, is involved in Nordson Industries, and Nordson is a global manufacturing firm based in, I believe, on the west side of Cleveland, and they have a significant footprint here in Mahoning County. And knowing that there are challenges around economic development, job opportunities in the minority sector, how can we set up training programs through Goodwill Industries, identify talent, train them, give them transportation, and then have them slide right into a career, into a full-time career. And so that's getting back to that notion of a magnet. There are several graduating classes we've documented of those organizations working together to really just help an employer like a Nordson Industries find and keep great talent by providing training programs and supporting the needs of those that want to work, but perhaps our transportation infrastructure is great for cars and trucks, but WRTA is an award-winning public transportation entity here, and they've done a lot to expand the service, but these are all just challenges we recognize. I don't know if Vernard could expand upon that.
Well, I was just going to take it from a different perspective, Jeff, and just talk just for a minute or two about certification pathways directly related to opportunities that the state of Ohio and the SBA and the federal government offers. So I'll just make it short. So here in the Mahoning Valley, we'll be the point of contact for anyone who's interested in learning how to be certified or vetted as a minority, women-owned, or any other type of socially or disadvantaged businesses. From that springboard, there are a lot of opportunities that can be created for businesses, but the first step is obviously to become certified. You can find out more information about being certified at our website at ybi.org. Not to take a lot of oxygen out of the room, there is a pathway that is pretty simple and straightforward. We can help you get you on that pathway, and we'll walk you through to the entire process. It's beneficial to most businesses who go down the pathway, particularly if you want to do business with the government, or particularly if you're interested in getting into those supply chains, or if you're looking at how do you gain access to procurement opportunities if you're disadvantaged, just socially or economic business.
Great. Thank you very much. And as we're coming up on 1 hour now, I want to thank everyone who's been in attendance today. But to I guess start to wrap things up, maybe we'll do a quick around the horn with either a final comment, just something you weren't able to speak on today, or maybe you want to expand upon it, or we kind of like to do this on some of our podcasts and other things, but a prediction, and it could be a prediction around some of the opportunities that we've talked about today, electric cars or logistics, a prediction around what the Mahoning Valley, Youngstown have to look forward to, and maybe we'll go Rick, Vern, and then Jeff to wrap up.
You're going to have me lead on predictions.
I feel like you would have a million of them. I mean, you are wearing the SpaceX hat, so you're probably really looking forward, looking in the future.
The next spaceship to launch will come out of Yars Air Force Base, which would be really rad. No, we're going to set, and maybe this isn't Mahoning Valley specific, but we are going to continuously see electric vehicles more and more every day. It is a growing industry. And, one of the things that I think we think about a lot is like, oh, well, they're too expensive. Well, cars were too expensive when cars first came out. Electric vehicles actually aren't like really a new thing. Actually, Baker Automobile in Cleveland put out the first electric vehicle, I believe, in 1898. There was a big battle between internal combustion engines. Sorry, I digress. But what we're going to see is electric vehicles becoming cheaper, more affordable, more accessible, especially as the kind of big three automakers get into the game in a meaningful way, and as well as when Japanese automakers as well get into this game. So my prediction right now, and to start answering a question that I saw there about young people and, how can we make this region more accessible to young people? We have an opportunity to be important to the rest of the world, right here and right now. And when you work here and you come here and you're from here, it means something. And so I wear this Warren, Ohio t-shirt when I go to conferences and all of that. And everybody's like, oh, why don't you wear a suit? And I'm like, because when I wear this Warren, Ohio t-shirt, I was at CES in January. I had no less than 20 or 30 young people come up to me and be like, hey, I'm from Niles. I'm from, like, it's awesome. I'm in LA now doing this cool stuff. You know, if there was, and I explained to them what I do, and they're like, if there was something like that when I was there, I would still be there. And if I could do what I'm doing now and do it at home, I would do that. Because like it's just, my life is better in the Mahoning Valley. And I have a big belief that there is, as Jeff said, a magnet under this place. You know, I grew up here. My dad was a steel worker. You know, it's something that's connected. So I'm very excited that, you know, I was in the Army for 7 years. I get to live all over the world and do all kinds of cool stuff. And I've lived in the Akron area for the last 10 years. I'm excited. My family right now is house hunting. We're coming back, and we want to be here in the Mahoning Valley because this is where we want to raise our kids, and this is where we think our kids have the best opportunity to stay and be a part of our family in a meaningful way for a really long time. Sorry, that's a long answer.
Well, thank you, Rick. That was great. Vern?
Well, so I'll just keep it brief. I just think our radical embrace of technology is going to, and this is my prediction, is going to lead to the Valley being a huge player in the years to come in terms of additive manufacturing, in terms of the, you know, electric technology revolution that this country is experiencing. I absolutely believe that we'll rival the Teslas, the SpaceXs of the world. Those things that we're going to do, particularly for defense, for the Air Force and for the Navy, are going to really keep us on the map. I'm just excited about all the concerns that have come together in terms of technology and energy in the Valley that are just going to make us and put us in our rightful place as leaders amongst these different technology concerns.
Thank you, Vern. Jeff?
Yes, I'm grateful to be invited to sit with you all today, and Barb as well. We do have amazing potential. My prediction is there's been, you know, obviously many are working from home, and the remote workforce and virtual environments have been thrust upon us. So to the extent that if you literally, I have many friends still that work at Google and live in New York City or Mountain View, and they're sitting at home in a tiny apartment and no longer commuting to Mountain View or you know, to Hudson Yards. They're like, well, I'm just gonna move back to Youngstown. You know, why would I can have a giant house and a really nice lifestyle. And the fact that, you know, what there used to be, the technology has leveled everything out, right? The internet, Netflix, culturally, we're all on, you know, we all have our heritage, of course, and we're gritty, and we're a bootstrapping type of market, and we definitely have that perspective. But the fact that several years ago when Pokemon Go launched, and it used to be that Youngstown was 10 years behind, you know, the rest of the world, that's not true anymore. We're like in real time, right there in sync, because when Pokemon Go did launch, I saw people that same day walking around. You know, I flew home from a trip, and people were walking around staring, looking for however you played that game. I thought, boy, we've arrived, because that trend is just hit, and I see people doing it right here. So to Rick's point, the question that was asked, I'd encourage, move here, be the change, drive the change. You can be very significant. It's a great place to start up as an entrepreneur. The cost of living is low. There's access to capital, access to great resources and support through the YBI, to Vernard's group, through Rick and BRITE Energy. And there are so many amazing things happening in this ecosystem to be part of the narrative and changing the narrative. And it's cool. It's why fall in to be one of many hundreds of thousands of people in Chicago and New York. You know, you can't move the needle there. You can come and move the needle here. Like, you literally can move the needle here, and that's a cool thing to do.
And actually, we need you to come here and move the needle.
Right.
Not only, like, can you, but we want you to.
Right.
Like, you know, you go other places, and when I lived in LA, I was just like, I am so unimportant. And like, it just killed me. And also the weather change or lack thereof, and I was miserable when I was in LA. You know, here, you know, people want to hear your ideas. Like, the only reason that I'm where I am is I asked the CEO of a very large company to grab coffee with me when I was like 26 and I had no job and no idea. And the guy was like, yeah, sure, let's go grab coffee. And I was like, what? What do you mean, let's go grab coffee? You know, and so that's the type of things that happen here regularly, is people are ready to give back and people are ready to support you.
Right. And the pizza. I'm sorry, but everywhere I've gone, we have the best pizza.
Well, that's a great place to wrap up, since I'm sure at least the four of us on here probably haven't had lunch yet. But thank you to our panelists, Barb, Rick, Vern, and Jeff. Thank you for being here, sharing some of your work, some of your thoughts and knowledge and expertise, and also thank you to everyone who has tuned in today. Hopefully this got some great questions in. Thank you for submitting those, and thank you also to HMB, our sponsor for the Tech Tour. Their support has helped make this possible. So you can go to hmbnet.com to find out more on them. Next week with the Tech Tour, we're going to be in Columbus. Virtually, just like this. And if you're interested in learning more, signing up and registering for that one, it's ohiox.org/tech tour. So thank you, everyone, for being here today. Really appreciate your time, and have a great rest of your Wednesday. Bye all.
Bye.